Hi there, welcome to my site. I'm Pastor Pauline Roscoe, and I minister to women, especially those who've been through some things, if you know what I mean. And my motto is that we can bring you from pain to purpose, to the original ordained purpose that God put inside of you. When you were born, He knew you, He knew your name. But along the way, we picked up a lot of trauma and a lot of situations that may have smothered out or just killed that purpose that you had. And you're kind of wandering around lost, trying to figure out the meaning of life, why you're here even in the first place. Well, let me tell you, some of those things is not because of you, but maybe because of some of the things that's happened to you. But you are not what you are, a product of your past, only if we allow that. So God is our Redeemer, you're right? He went through everything on the cross, yet He knew His purpose. And He did it for you and for me. You're not the only one out there. I just want you to know that you're not alone. That's why I'm here. It was difficult sharing my story, but I'm going to share it with you today. I have several stories that I will uh, let you in on along. Keep watching. So this one I want to talk about a little girl that I knew personally. That was at 5 years old. She was given away to another city with an elderly lady who was a guardian. But the lady had some mental illness. She was psychotic, actually. But we didn't know that. People didn't know that back in the 50s and the 60s. It wasn't heard of. I mean, they labeled her as crazy, but they thought she was harmless. Well, imagine a 5-year-old being forced to take on responsibilities that was not supposed to be for her to do, adult responsibilities. 5 and 6 year olds trying to iron with one of those heavy irons, and washing clothes and doing cleaning the house and all these things. Well, the sad part about it, if she did it wrong, or if the creases in those jeans that the elderly person wore were not centered, she would get beaten. So this little girl got beaten for all kinds of things. She just was on edge, wondering what's going to happen next. What if she do anything wrong? And so she felt like that she wasn't worthy or no one loved her because she didn't receive that love. And the lady kept telling her she wasn't going to be about nothing. She was stupid, ugly, and so forth and so forth. The little girl would just sit at a window waiting for a car to come by around that turn, and would be her parents to come pick her up. But years went by and they never came, not to come and take her away from this awful, awful place. So the little girl just come to realize that nobody cared. Nobody cared. And so as things happen to be, when she was in the fifth grade, and she's like 14 years old, she was her school integrated, and she was the only little black girl, only little black child in that class for until her senior year. So all that time she was bullied, she was endured racism, all kind of stuff, and a lot of it because the way she was dressed. She would have to wear old clothes to school. Her shoes were too small, and you can imagine she's wearing plaits in her hair as a teenager. So you can imagine the mockery and laughter that was made at her. And then when she got home, it was horrible. So things weren't much better. But when the lady died, she was 17 years old. The little girl was grown up to be 17 years old. Year after year, she had sat in that window waiting for them to come back, waiting for someone to take her away, waiting for someone to find her. Well, child abuse wasn't talked about back in the 70s, 60s, because it wasn't recognized. That was a family thing you didn't talk about. But the teachers noticed the welts, the teachers noticed the bruises, and kind of smiled with her and tried to, be nice to her, but they didn't ask questions. So as it had turned out, the woman died. The little girl was now 17 years old. She was a teenager. She was she was kind of brought back to her home with her three brothers, her parents, and they were sweet. There was a nice family. But the little girl, you can imagine being in an environment of this horrible environment to go to another really freedom environment. And everybody was busy. Everybody was doing their own thing. So they had grown up. So she felt kind of like a stranger, even though this was her family. The young lady starts looking for love. What is love? So if somebody tells, or God told her that he loved her, she thought, well, okay, somebody loves me. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but we're so desperate for that attention or for that validation and for those affirmations. We kind of gravitate to some things that's not healthy for us. Well, a few months later, she became pregnant. So in a hasty marriage, they married, and she was happy about the baby because finally somebody she could have that loved her and who needed her very own baby. Unfortunately, the baby only lived 3 days because it was born premature and only weighed 2 pounds, 6 ounces. In those days, we didn't have the facilities to take care of preemies like that. So you can imagine how devastated that little girl was me. By now, I guess she figured that out. So you can imagine how devastated I was to lose this baby, this little boy. Well, things didn't, there was no reason to stay together. So the marriage was annulled, and you would think she would go on and just start anew, start afresh, and because she's very smart, she just didn't have those opportunities that I think some of you have the potential, but you didn't have the opportunities in life. Well, she fell in love with another guy. He said he loved her, he could take care of her, and he wanted to bring her all the way back home to his home in Alabama. So here I was leaving 600 miles from home, excited about a new life, and with this guy that she really hadn't known that long. But once she got to Alabama, things changed. Have you ever been with somebody and all on one day you look at them like, this is not the person I married? But now you're just kind of stuck here. You didn't have family, you didn't have anybody. And so he was very, very obsessively jealous. And he was also very controlling. I'm going to tell you, abuse can happen in plain sight and people not even realize it. I was working at UAB Hospital, and this my ex-husband decided that he saw somebody just pass by and said hello. He called me into this back room and slapped me and called me all kind of names. Listen, I got up, washed my face, get my act together, and went back to work. No one even knew what had happened. Why am I telling you this? Because I don't think I'm the only person who has experienced this. It's just that people are blind, turn a blind eye to the signs, to the things that they see, because they don't want to get involved. And you wonder, why does a woman that's been abused like that stay in the situation? Well, because she didn't have anything except where she worked, and she was dependent on him. And then she got pregnant again. This time the baby lived, and they were thinking that the marriage would get better because now you got a baby in the family. No, that is not always the answer. But I loved my baby. The same person who said he loved me, they'd do anything in the world for me, was the same person that I was running for my life from with a 9-month-old baby, because I had filed for divorce, and he said, if I can't have you, nobody's going to have you. Well, I didn't have anywhere to turn. I didn't know who to call for help. I didn't know how to ask for help. But I stood firm. I said, enough is enough. One thing about it, I'm a survivor. I got my baby and we moved on, right? But I still carried a lot of trauma, a lot of mistrust and unforgiveness and, those aches of the soul. Whereas in physical abuse, you can see the scars, but they are healed. But when you have emotional woundedness, it's not as easily detected. And you may not even know yourself that you're carrying these weights, or that it's affecting your decisions, affecting your relationships. what happened though? God didn't give up on me. God was there. And now looking back on it, I realized he was there all the time. I just hadn't been introduced to him. So this young man came into my life and he shared Jesus with me. And oh my goodness, I went to church with him, and the power of God, the Holy Spirit, just showered upon me and washed away all that hurt, all that pain, all that anger. I was free from the unforgiveness. I realized what true love was from Jesus Christ. And my life changed. I was in my 20s before I even realized that I had purpose. And there he was there. And 45 years later, he's my husband of 45 years. Well, yes, go ahead and clap. And we have a church ministry, we have missions, we have overseas missions, we work with local communities, and it's just been a tremendous blessing what God has done in our lives together. But what I want you to know is that God sees these things. And when I met him, Jesus, it was almost like he said, I was with you from the day you were born. I know your name. And so I just want to leave that with you, that there is hope, there is change, and there is purpose. And so as you walk with me today, continually on with that story, which we're going to talk about, childhood trauma, and young adult trauma, and maybe it may be just you don't we feel unworthy, self-hatred, taking on a lot of blame for stuff that was not your fault. Maybe it was things that you just had that mistrust, and even relationship with God. You don't even know what trust looks like. I was that way. I loved God. I served God. But it took some trials and situations and deeper relationships in pursuit of him to understand truly he is trustworthy, and truly you are worthy. You have purpose. And I want to just tap into that untouched potential and just draw out the warrior woman inside of you. I hope you join me continually on this journey as we talk about each one of those pain points, whether it's trauma, whether it's unforgiveness, whether spiritual pain, emotional pain, whether it's just being questioning God, not understanding. Maybe it's, you're having a little difficulty getting closer to God. I just want us to walk together, and hopefully you will comment and subscribe, and you'll know every time I pop up. And share it with somebody. If this is helping you, let somebody else know and they join this family. Thank you for watching again. This has been Pastor Pauline with From Pain to Purpose. God bless you.